Hello, I am Taisho, and today I will be giving my thoughts about the media consumption survey as well as the VR headset session that I had on week 3. So, overall, with the spreadsheet, I was not surprised at all with my usage of social media platforms, especially Instagram and YouTube. But I will say this before I start logging it, I was very shocked about how many forms of media I was using. Like, I didn't think like board games as well as card games would count on it, but yeah, I think you'd be able to now. It does count, so it was very interesting to see. With my usage on like social media platforms, generally I was using it in the evenings as well as in between breaks, which really rolls my hours, and so that was interesting. And then what I typically get on my Reels feed is that during the day, like it gives me like more like relatable content, more just like everyday situations and all that. But in towards like the evenings, it's more like targeted, like more personal, like memes that I would enjoy. And so the cross-platform conversions I noticed, I would be looking for like song names that I didn't know. Like I would hear it on Instagram and then I search it up on YouTube to find the song name and then I save it so that I remember it. So that's one of the big things I noticed while tracking this. And so I've been using Instagram for many years, and so it made me think about a lot of things. So the one academic source that I can connect is The Medium is a Message by Marshall McLuhan. So which this one, The Medium has a bigger effect over the content itself because while the creation was intended for a specific purpose, how society interacts changes the meaning and evolves through a different message. So, biggest example, Instagram. That was pretty. That was intended to like share photos with your friends, but now we know that it's really the algorithm being the content as well as how you perceive your identity, as well as the pace, scale, pattern of our social interactions. Like I've noticed, I've used the app a lot more once they started introducing Reels, and it's become my habit, unfortunately. So other things I want to point out is that I'm probably one of the few people that doesn't use like Spotify often. Like I usually listen to music on YouTube because there's a lot more things that are more accessible there. I only really use it when I'm driving since I don't have internet, obviously, so that's one of the things to consider. As well as I've explored a lot more on the internet during that time because I was looking for a job at that time. So, but also with gaming, I usually play on mobile now. It's a game called like Brawl Stars, which is a 3v3 like strategy multiplayer strategy game. And so I can connect this to a source called The Last Word on Ludology versus Narratology by Janet H. Murray. And basically, she explains that both studies should be considered when discussing like how you judge on the game itself, not just the mechanics, but the storytelling as well. And with Brawl Stars, even though it's not a story-driven game, you are still experiencing narrative elements. That was something like I didn't consider. Like I would have thought it was only just for movies and TV series, but games that don't really have a story also count as well. Moving on to the VR headset session that I had in week 3. So prior to this experience, I've have a Oculus Quest 2 at home as well as I've tried it in some other place before, so I've got I know what to expect. And I have to say the Apple Vision Pro was a lot smaller and lighter than I expected. But anyways, the game I picked was Stranger Things. I only experienced chapter 1 and parts 2, and I've got to say I was really immersed into this world, especially in the first chapter, how we're inside Elle's mind. As much as a lot of care is taking place with the perspective, lighting, and shade and the object size, those are all impressive, but I've got to say the spatial audio is what makes up for it. Like, it's like, wow, you can only hear your footsteps in the water and you feel like you're going into another person's like memory. And so I thought that like really impressed me so much. And like yeah, basically I'm saying is like you feel like you're that avatar. And I have to say the rumble on the joysticks help as well. Like you feel like you're grabbing an object or you're like climbing an obstacle. I almost got too immersed into the world when I was playing Vecna, when I was trying to climb an obstacle and I was trying to reach for it, and then it kind of tricks my brain into thinking, man, I'm in this high place. So this relates to an article that was published 10 years ago from New Scientist. Virtual reality could be an ethical minefield. Are we ready? So, and that is about interviewing a philosopher about the potential dangers like shooting games applying to real life or uses that come from people like the military and all that. I feel like people know that this is a different world that they're playing, and the factors that cause in real life are different reasons. So what people should care about is when they're playing. Like for me, like in the end, I wasn't able to play for long periods of time due to a bit of motion sickness because I was doing too much movement. So I feel like outside stuff doesn't really matter much.